It's time for
DodgerHeads.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Medium Large Sports Network. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined tonight by Bruce Kuntz, here to talk all sorts of Dodgers content. We're bringing back a couple old favorites, big deal or no deal, buy or sell. But Bruce, I'll start with this. 3-game lead in the division for the Dodgers, 3.5 if you count the tiebreaker. How are we feeling on a Thursday off day?
We're back in an upswing. Things keep rolling on this roller coaster. It seems like every other series, it feels like it's as bad as it can get, and then it's back to feeling real good. We're in the good stage of things right now, so I'm glad that this is a Thursday show coming off the Rockies series and not a Monday or Sunday night show coming off that series in Baltimore.
Totally. Up and to the right, as we've been saying on this show, I know it's the Rockies that they just swept, and if you want to be down on this team, you would remind people quickly that this is a team that is setting a franchise record for losses in Colorado. However, the problem with this team has been their inability to beat the Rockies and teams like the Rockies. And so, to me, yes, a sweep is a sweep, and it's always going to be a positive. But I am not writing off the fact that they beat the Padres as meaningless. Are you?
No, I mean, any series you need to win. And the only thing the Dodgers can control is going out and beating the team that they're playing that night. And they did it against the Rockies. They just played in Colorado and could only take 2 of 4. And that was something that everybody was frustrated by in between those two Padres series. So they got back into the right swing of things. They dominated this series too. It's not like they just barely beat a bad team. They were the best team all the way through and made that very clear. So it was a commanding and decisive victory, and that's something that there's no reason to try and take away from.
Yeah, I'm with you on that last part. I think the fact that they came out and whooped these guys and dudes got hot, we're going to talk about that, but the fact that it was like 9-0 in that last game, the fact that they put some distance between themselves, the pitching staff did what they're supposed to do, the offense did what they're supposed to do. And look, yes, it's the Rockies, but these games weren't in Coors Field. So it's not like, they were playing at elevation and the outfield was huge. Like they did this at Dodger Stadium, yes, against Rockies pitching, but to me, it all counts. Again, if we're going to be doom and gloom when they lose to these teams, we should be excited when they beat these teams. It's 4 games in a row. And we're going to do buy or sell, Bruce. We're going to do big deal or no deal. I'm just going to start with a big picture. Like, are you buying that the Dodgers have turned a corner on this season?
It's hard for me to answer that because it feels like every one of these, like I just said, it's been a roller coaster. Every time that there's an upswing, I feel like I'm starting to get to a point where I want to buy back in and feel like I'm confident in this team. I still have very big concerns, but I think I am mostly buying because the starting pitching is just so good. And it's gotten to a point that I don't think you can count out a team that has starters as good as this entire rotation is. And these are guys that are expected to be aces, and they're still overperforming. So it's just in a great place on that side of things. The offense is looking better. We're going to get to guys like Mookie Betts has had a turnaround task. Hernandez has looked better over this last series. And with the offense looking a little better, I still have a lot of concerns about the bullpen, as I'm sure everybody does. But I don't think that's something that can take away from how well the starting pitching has done and how meaningful that is for projecting a team into October.
Yeah, it's an interesting question, like you say, because the question is like, it's a small sample size and we're going to get to buy or sell on some of this micro stuff. But for me, I'm buying it. Now, I'm the optimist. I've never really sold, so there's not a whole lot for me to buy back. But the reason I say that is because, as you said, the starting pitching has been fantastic. As expected. Like this group is expected to dominate. They have started to dominate. The offense, guys like Mookie Betts, Teoscar Hernandez, Shohei Ohtani continuing to hit. Like these are things I expect to happen. These are not surprises. These are not like, man, can we really believe that James Outman is going to hit like this? He was never a prospect, and this feels like fool's gold. None of the Dodgers hitters right now feel like fool's gold. These are all guys that you're like, yeah, this is kind of what I expect them to do. And so they are getting hot at the right time, potentially. But I am buying in because nothing I'm seeing is surprising me. The reason I had optimism, Bruce, for the entire season are all the reasons that are now coming true. And I would add the bullpen, by the way. Yes, Tanner Scott's a mess. Kopech's a mess. Kirby Yates is a mess. All of that, yes and amen. But Alex Vesia looks really good. Jack Dreyer looks really good. Like, Blake Treinen looked really good after Saturday. Like, I just think there's enough people in that group even that I feel fine if you're going to give me 6 starting pitchers I like on the postseason roster and then, 9 relief pitchers, 8 relief pitchers, with the Shohei Ohtani rule. I think I can find 8 that I like.
Yeah, I think the big thing for me is it hasn't been a specific facet of the team. The bullpen has been the part that stood out the most because of the guys like Scott, and Treinen's had his struggles. Kopech still can't throw a strike to save his life. But the team has just felt snake bit at many points. Tanner Scott talked about it in his post-game comments, feeling like the game of baseball hates him right now. And it's that feeling that has kind of been following this team around. And I'll be the first to admit it got to me over that Baltimore series. And anybody who, saw my Twitter meltdown could attest to that. I was
You're not alone, Bruce. I can assure you you're not alone.
It was a feeling of I haven't felt in a very long time with the Dodger team. The kind of losses that have kind of stacked up over the season where even when things can feel like they're going back in the right direction, then you get dragged right back down by a game that you can't imagine losing, and then somehow it winds up being a loss. So I'm still wanting to believe in the talent on this team. I'm not quite as unfallibly confident as I was a couple of months ago and feeling like that this team's going to be like exactly what I thought it would be. I still think there are some functional things that continue to go wrong and kind of concern me a little bit, but ultimately the talent's just so good that I can't sell either.
Just out of curiosity, because I see some comments kind of hinting at this. If we both agree that starting pitching is dialed, and this is as good as the starting pitching for the Dodgers has ever looked this close to the postseason. And then the offense seems to be turning a corner. Max Muncy is back. We'll see what happens with Will Smith. We're going to talk about that. And then the bullpen is the question mark. Is it fair to say the bullpen, though, is the least important of those 3 groups? Like, if you could get pitching right, which we agree, and the offense, which seems to be turning a corner a little bit, that if there was a question mark you were willing to live with, would it be the bullpen?
Yeah, absolutely. I think especially if you just think about the pitching side of things by itself, you'd way rather have the best starting pitching because not only those guys are going to throw the most innings, but also they're going to be able to get you a lead. If your starting pitching is really good, then your offense can get out ahead, and then you hope that you're out ahead enough that the bullpen can't blow it. But if you flip things in reverse, the bullpen can't come in when you're losing and suddenly miraculously save things. So yeah, the Dodgers are not in a perfect spot, but if you had to choose a flaw, then I think the bullpen, and like you said, it's not like the bullpen is a complete drastic flaw that every single guy down there is untrustworthy. Alex Vesia is back and looked much better in his first couple outings back off the injured list. It looked like the fastball was back to the Alex Vesia fastball that should live at the top of the zone and get whiffs. So I think the bullpen isn't a complete catastrophe, but like going back to those losses in Baltimore, those are the kind of losses that you have to sit there and say everything can feel like you've got all the talent, you've got everything set up for you. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, an out away from a no-hitter, all those things, and to somehow lose that game, that's the kind of thing that feels more impactful than what you can boil down to whether the roster looks good or not. That sticks with you.
Yeah, and we talked on the show afterwards. It was like that game could either be the thing that sparks a turnaround or that sparks a nosedive. The good news is the Dodgers have gone out and won 4 in a row since then. So let's get to a couple super chats. Aaron says, hot take, Benny Rowe should be the backup next season. Move Dalton to a spot where he can play more. Glasnow is raving about him. Austin Barnes vibes. I don't know if Austin Barnes vibes is being used as a compliment or an insult there, but I'll just leave that there. What do you think? Do you think Ben has earned his place on the 40-man roster and as maybe on the major league roster?
I would personally, I'm a little bit more relaxed than that. I think Rortvedt just got here and he's been impressive in the time that he's been here. And it's always great to be getting as many compliments as he seems to be getting from guys on the pitching staff and Dave Roberts, and everybody seems to be on board with what Rortvedt's doing. But Dalton Rushing has also been getting a lot of compliments in the time that he's been up with the Dodgers in terms of his game management. And I know that the optics haven't been great, especially lately with things like blocking behind the plate. But I think overall Dalton Rushing has made good progress as a catcher and doing the right things and, catching meetings and pregame planning and all those kind of stuff that really matters to have a catcher that is doing things well with Will Smith. So I think Dalton Rushing still has a future in the organization, at least in terms of value, even if it's on the trade block, whatever it is. I don't think Rortvedt has taken Rushing's spot in terms of future plans.
Yeah, and it's worth pointing out, Ben has no more options remaining, so they can't keep him on the 40-man roster and shuttle him between Oklahoma City and the big leagues. They would have to waive him and then see if he clears waivers before adding them. So I'm with you. Like, it's a nice story, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Rortvedt versus Dalton Rushing conversation a little bit later, but we've all seen the at-bats. And I know, he's almost caught a couple no-hitters. I'm not diminishing that, but it's a total zero offensively. And I think he's 4 for 12 or 4 for 14, 4 for 16 with a walk so far. They're all singles. They're really bad looking at bats. And so if you're the Dodgers, yes, it's a backup catcher and kind of like, who cares? But if that guy's going to be starting 60 to 70 games, I want a lot more out of the offensive profile than we're getting from Ben. So again, we're going to circle back to that conversation a little bit later in buy or sell. Kevin says Phillies could be our kryptonite for a two-peat. The Phillies sweep the Mets. I don't know if that says more about the Phillies or the Mets. The Mets haven't won in like 6 months, I don't think. But the Phillies keep winning. We're going to see the Phillies in a week. So rather than answering this right now, Kevin, I would say give me a week. They play the Giants and then they play the Phillies, and let's see how that series goes.
Was really hoping that the Mets would be able to take at least one game from Philly, because this race for the second seed in the National League is a really, really big one. And I'm just as focused on that one as I am on the division, to be perfectly honest, because I do not want the Dodgers playing in a wild card series. That's a nightmare. But the Phillies are doing everything they can to put themselves in position for that 2 seed. And the only thing that can really change that course right now is if the Dodgers play really well on that series to start next week.
Yeah, absolutely. As it currently stands, Phillies at 87 and 60 are 4.5 games ahead of the Dodgers for that final bye, with, I believe it's like 17 games remaining in the season. So 16 games remaining, 4.5 game lead. But you do play them 3 times. So that's the way to mix those things up. So, all right, let's get to some of these segments. The first segment we're going to do is big deal or no deal. And I'm going to give you a story or a quote, and you tell me if this is a big deal to you or a no deal. The first one is the bullpen. The Dodgers bullpen is a big deal, but I want to ask specifically about the quotes that we got from Dave Roberts recently. He has said he is going to ride the arms he's trusted to this point, referring to Tanner Scott, Blake Treinen, Kirby Yates, Michael Kopech, etc. Quote, there's a confidence thing right now that they've got to get over. Basically, I want to keep running these guys out there so they can find it, so they can build confidence for the postseason. Mark Pryor added this: these are our guys and we believe in them. We have the utmost confidence in them. The results haven't been there. It hasn't been good. We have 3 weeks left in a season and we can get on a run. The confidence, the refusal to not send these guys out there, big deal or no deal to you?
It's a big deal, because I think that where these 3 guys, and especially Tanner Scott, are at heading into October makes the outlook on this Dodger team significantly different, whether they can trust Tanner Scott out of the bullpen or whether he's basically a wash. This team would look much different if they can get back to him pitching well. And I'm not surprised at all that this is the approach that they're taking. Like you said, that Mark Pryor said, you've still got 16 games. That doesn't sound like a lot, but it still is a lot of chances to get out there. And all a guy like Tanner Scott really needs is one real shutdown outing to feel like that he's back to the guy that he's always been. And they're going to continue to give him that chance, because if he can get back to feeling like he's the closer that the Dodgers just gave a huge contract to in the offseason, then heading into the playoffs, this roster looks significantly better.
I'm with you on the best case scenario of this. My concern is they keep sending Tanner Scott out in high leverage situations as if he's still Tanner Scott. Like, you want to keep trotting him out there, keep him on the roster, 9-0, throw him out there and see if he can get some swing and miss. I'm all for it. Like, but him being the guy that they go to with the bases loaded against the Orioles, that's the part to me that makes no sense whatsoever, Bruce. In a stretch, which, by the way, I just said they're 4.5 games out of getting a bye, and they only have a 3.5 game, essentially, lead on the division.
Yeah, and that's the part where I think that it's certainly possible Dave Roberts doesn't have to back up his actions with the words that he's saying, because Roberts will never be the guy that comes out to the media and says, no, we're moving Tanner Scott to low leverage because that is totally counterproductive in terms of trying to boost his confidence back up to get him where he needs to be. But I think that it's a very short leash right now of the closer we get to the end of the season with this race for the division, the race for the second spot. And then once you get into the playoffs, if Tanner Scott is still the Tanner Scott that he is right now on September 11th, they're not going to be putting him out in the ninth inning in the playoffs. There's just no world where that could happen and be justified. So I think that they're going to continue to at least run him out there. I think that the situations they run him out there are going to be changing depending on how he pitches. And if it continues to go this way, then very fast, I think the approach will shift, even if it's not verbalized that way.
Yeah, I think I'm in the no deal camp ultimately because of what you just said. I just refuse to believe that Dave is going to keep up what we have seen as far as Tanner Scott's usage of late. Sure, Kopech, Yates, Scott, like if these guys need to stick around on the roster and we can find low leverage spots for them, great. But ultimately, I do not think this is going to be a big deal because I do not think Dave Roberts is dumb enough to trust his season to these guys, barring any unforeseen circumstances. Like, I think if they desperately need a win and they desperately need outs, I can't imagine once we get to that point that Tanner Scott is the guy that he turns to unless he had turned it around somehow.
I think, interestingly enough, Tanner Scott is the guy that I'm most attached to of this three in terms of who I think actually has a chance to turn it around, despite the fact that he's probably been the worst, at least at this point. Not like any of them have been good. But I'm really concerned about Michael Kopech and not overly optimistic about a turnaround because his misses are bad. His misses are constant, and that's not somebody you can put on the mound in the postseason. And then Kirby Yates has been the same kind of thing. He hasn't given any reason to feel like it can turn around. Tanner Scott has still had moments this year where it feels like, okay, maybe he's back to the guy he should be. And then the locations just get messed up and he winds up throwing it right down the middle again. So getting that dialed in feels obtainable. The other two guys, I'm not quite so sure.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Let's go to the next one. Big deal or no deal that it sounds like Tommy Edman is going to be part of a platoon from here on out. Dave Roberts quoted as saying, quote, I see him, Tommy Edman, playing more versus lefties than righties. He also left open basically the idea that Edman, while primarily a center fielder, could be playing second base as well. Is this a big deal that Tommy Edman might not be an everyday guy this year?
No, this isn't a big deal to me because it's not overly surprising. Tommy Edman had a fantastic start to the season at the plate, and then he's been hurt, so I don't want to sound like I'm completely blaming him for the fall off, but his bat has not been the NLCS MVP guy for the vast majority of the season, and I don't think that's what he needs to be. His whole career, Tommy Edman's been a lefty killer, so we can fully expect Tommy Edman will always be in there against lefties, and then he'll get maybe a handful of starts against righties. And I think that's all Dave Roberts is saying. And that's kind of the place that I expected it to be either way.
What's interesting is when you describe the platoon against Edman, is going to play a lot more versus lefties than righties. You have two other guys who crush lefties available in Miguel Rojas and Kike Hernandez. There's kind of only one guy that right-handed pitching is the favorable platoon for. And plug your ears, everybody, because it's Michael Conforto is the guy that's going to be playing against righties. So it feels to me like it's almost going to be a Tommy Edman, Michael Conforto platoon of some sort with Kike Hernandez and or Miguel Rojas playing in the infield, if I'm doing my math quickly.
I think the thing that in a vacuum, if the Dodgers could just trade one of their players for the opposite side platoon sort of thing, I think Alex Call has a weird fit on the roster right now that Tommy Edman is back. Call was on the bench last night against a lefty, and that felt weird, but it was like, where would you have put him? The whole lineup was filled already with guys that are better against lefties. So Michael Conforto, I think, unfortunately for many people out there, is kind of the only real option for that right-hand platoon right now, and it was between Edman and Conforto, and Edman, I think, is still nursing that ankle, probably isn't fully 100%. I don't want to speak for that, but it seems that might be the case because they don't think he's going to go out and be a better hitter against righties, and Conforto will continue to get run.
Yeah, and that also allows Edman to play second base, which I'm just guessing is probably easier on his ankle than having to do long runs out in center field? Is that a safe bet?
Yeah, I think we heard that before he went on the injured list when Tommy Edman was not playing very much center field at all early on in the season, that it was connected to the ankle and that second base is a much easier job to hold down and still keep that ankle healthy.
Yeah. So, which again lends itself to Edman being in the infield, which means Conforto being in the outfield. And again, then that's probably Kike Hernandez, maybe, who's playing the outfield on days that Michael Conforto isn't, or allows some flexibility. So they're going to have some interesting decisions because you have Kike, the postseason hero. You have Miguel Rojas, who's been one of their best hitters of late. And can you get both of those guys on the field at the same time? It seems like the answer is no.
And that's the thing that I think once you get to the playoffs, if Michael Conforto hasn't had a turnaround, or, if he's still the current Michael Conforto, I think that you could absolutely see Kike Hernandez, maybe even Miguel Rojas getting some starts against righties too, in place of Conforto, and just throw him in the bottom of the lineup. Both of them are a better glove than Conforto, and then hope that they can contribute something on offense if you don't have the faith that Conforto will be able to do that.
And I see some people in the chat asking about Ha-Seong Kim, where he fits into this. What's been your assessment of what we've seen from Kim over the last week or two?
Yeah, his offensive profile is not in a good place right now. I think that it's a lot of strikeouts. It's not any walks. There's not really pop. And I'm not a Ha-Seong Kim hater, but he's not going to contribute a lot on the offensive side of things. So I don't think that he's a guy that has to be in there against right-handed pitching or anything like that. I still think he has a definite place on the roster, but I think he's kind of the bench speed guy right now that can also get mixed in against right-handed pitching, but I don't think that he's someone that you want in there all the time against righties, especially once you get to the playoffs and you face that high octane sort of stuff that you see in October. I don't think Kim is set up well right now to face that.
Yeah. And it doesn't help that if Tommy Edman is playing more second base than he is center field, Ha-Seong Kim is much better on the infield than he is in the outfield. So, all right, let's go to the one other name I was going to mention, by the way. And I was trying to pull up his numbers while I was doing this, and I'm not going to be able to get to it. And we haven't talked about Alex Freeland in a while. He obviously got sent down to the minor leagues. When we look at these splits, he is a guy who also hits better against right-handers than he has against left-handers historically. Is there a place anywhere in here for Michael Conforto, do you think, as an alternative, maybe, or excuse me, Alex Freeland as an alternative to Michael Conforto?
I think that seems unlikely at this point now that he got sent down, unless he were to make some adjustment in AAA and really destroy the ball through the end of the year and give some reason to think it would immediately translate to the big leagues. I think he got a lot of chance in his run up in the big leagues to make some adjustments, and it seemed like that pitchers were starting to figure him out. The strikeouts were just too high. And I'm a guy that I think Freeland can be a really good contributor moving into the future. I think the plate discipline is really good. And I think that he's got good thump, especially from the left-handed side of the plate. But right now, he wasn't making those immediate adjustments that you need to see. And I think that they're in a place that they think Michael Conforto has a better chance to compete against that high-level pitching than Freeland does right now.
Yeah, and again, I don't blame people for not listening to me when I talk about Michael Conforto. I'll preface what I'm saying. The at-bat quality, as far as taking pitches, battling through at-bats, even if the results haven't always been awesome, at least Conforto gives you that. At least he's, getting 7 to 9 pitches, it feels like, every time he goes up there, and has the ability to draw a walk. Nobody likes walks. It doesn't show up in the batting average. It's not sexy, but there's a reason his on-base percentage has remained nearing respectable this season. So I know he's not a plus defender. He's not even a neutral defender, but I do think he offers you, it feels like the floor on Conforto is at least this guy's going to give us a good at-bat and walk every once in a while. So, okay, big deal or no deal, third one here. Will Smith, a late scratch yesterday. He finally comes back, plays in his first game, and then the next day gets scratched minutes before first pitch. How big of a deal is this to you?
I think this is a sort of big deal because it really illustrates that this hand is going to be something that he's dealing with on a daily basis through the rest of the year. You don't see guys get scratched like immediately before first pitch like he was very often. And I think it has to mean that he was going to try and give it a go. And then right before first pitch, he just said, like, I don't think this is going to work. And for that to even be within the realm of possibility for a guy in Will Smith who is constantly playing through different pains and aches, and he's a guy that's used to playing banged up. And so for Will Smith to give a sign and say, I can't go that late before first pitch has to mean that it's a pretty significant pain thing that he's going to have to be trying to manage moving forward.
Yeah, I'm with you. This is a huge deal, in part because of how large the gap is between the starter and the backup in this position. And we're talking Max Muncy to Buddy Kennedy levels of gaps between two players. And so if Will Smith can't figure this thing out, and they basically said, there's nothing we can do for this. It's a swelling thing. It's a pain tolerance thing. And we're hoping for the best. If they can't figure this out and figure out a way for him to be able to play every single game in the postseason, which seems unlikely at this point, that's a massive, massive problem. Because as much as anybody in here might like Ben Roethlisberger, like, let's be honest with ourselves. Let's tell the truth here and not like live in fantasy land. He might be better. You might like him more than Dalton Rushing. We're going to get there. He's not good. He's not good offensively. He might be fine defensively, but this would be a huge deal. And I'm with you. It would be a huge deal if he's missing time. And it definitely feels like there's going to be some missed time.
And I'm also worried not only in just the missed time possibility, but in terms of how it's going to affect Will Smith on the field. Because if it's a pain tolerance thing that's as significant as getting scratched immediately before first pitch, then that means even when he's in there, it's going to be something that he's feeling. And Smith is a guy that in the past has had his production slowed down when he's dealing with injuries. And not to like make it sound like he's soft or anything like that. It's actually the opposite. But for something to be this significant in terms of pain tolerance, it's tough to play through that and still be the same guy that was at one point competing for the batting title this year.
Yeah, I'm with you. Okay, last one on big deal or no deal before we move to buy or sell. Big deal or no deal, how big of a gap there is between the Dodgers and the Padres remaining schedule. 16 games remaining for each team. Again, a reminder, a 3.5 game lead for the Dodgers. Our guy Matthew Moreno reminds us 13 is the Dodgers' magic number. The Dodgers over the final stretch play 7 against the Giants, who it feels like are the best team in baseball right now. They play 3 against the Phillies, 3 in Arizona, which feels like a house of horrors, and then 3 against the Mariners, who are currently sitting in the final wild card spot for the American League. On the other hand, the Padres, they get 4 against the Rockies, 3 against the Mets, 3 against the White Sox, 3 against the Brewers, and 3 against the Diamondbacks, with all 6 of their last games at home. How is this a big deal or no deal, the gap between those two schedules?
It's not something that I'm overly worried about because, especially looking at the Dodger schedule, the Giants have been red hot lately, and that's absolutely true. But I still think the Dodgers expect themselves to beat the Giants, and they have to be able to beat the Giants. If it's a Giants series that is between the Dodgers and the division, they need to be able to win that series, regardless of whether the Giants are playing on a hot streak or not. The Phillies are certainly a really good team, and that's going to feel like a playoff series, and that obviously would be better if that wasn't on the schedule. But I think it's ultimately going to come down to the Dodgers have to beat the Giants. They have a 3 game buffer right now between them and the Padres. That is an entire series when you're talking about 16 games left. The Dodgers, I think, control their own destiny right now, schedule weaker, stronger or not. And I don't think that changes just looking at this strength of schedule thing.
I'm with you. This is a no deal to me. If I'm the Dodgers, in some ways, I like that my schedule is harder because it means I get 3 games against the Phillies. I'm 4.5 games back of them. I would rather have them on my schedule than not have them on my schedule. Yes, the Giants are red hot. Maybe I'm delusional. Maybe I'm biased. They still don't scare me. It's 7 games. I know that. Yes, Arizona is not a fun place to play. The Dodgers should be fine. And then the Mariners. Ask any Mariners fan. I know lots of them. They are expecting their team to absolutely crap the bed to finish off the regular season. So they would tell you, if you're a Dodgers fan, congrats. You're going to get us at our worst that final weekend of the series, which, speaking of, that's just up the road for me. I might have to make a trip up for the final 3 games of the season. We got a couple super chats here, and then we're going to get to some buy or sell. Back-to-back, an interesting question here. With the way the rotation currently is for the Dodgers, Bruce, is this team better than 2024 on paper?
Yeah, I think so, because heading into October last year, the whole question was how are they going to pencil in this awful starting rotation that everybody was hurt and there was no way to predict how it was going to go, and they won the World Series. So to go into October this year and have the luxury to not really have to worry about the rotation at all, I think this roster looks really, really good on paper right now.
Yeah, I'm with you. Obviously, the 2014 figured out a way to get there. But if we're just purely talking on paper, it's not even close. I mean, they were playing bullpen games last year, and this year we're going to be deciding about whether or not Tyler Glasnow even pitches in the first round of the playoffs. And that guy, by the way, had 7 no-hit innings last time. So they have an embarrassment of riches on starting pitching side, and that's a good sign, obviously. Jedi Engineer, speaking of the Dodgers in Seattle, will I see you at the game to finish out the year, Jeff? I would say unlikely, but maybe. I'm looking at the final game of the season. That Sunday game would be the one that maybe I could make my way north for. But man, the downside to the Dodgers being awesome, Bruce, it is so freaking expensive to go see this team play literally anywhere in the country. So with the Mariners fighting for a postseason spot, I'm not sure I've got the cash to go spend $200 to see the Dodgers play the Mariners in Seattle. But who knows? Crazier things have happened. Worse decisions have been made on a whim. So we will see. Okay, buying or selling. I'm going to give you a storyline, and you tell me if you are buying or selling this as real. The first one, maybe the easiest one. Mookie Betts' resurgence, Bruce. He has an 814 OPS over the second half of the season. Why do I mention the second half of the season? If I remember correctly, Bruce, somebody predicted an over 800 OPS for Mookie Betts in the second half of the season. He's currently at 814. You want to get a little smaller and more recent? Last 31 games, OPS of 986. Last 20 games, over 1,000 with 5 home runs and 5 more extra base hits on top of that. Are you buying or selling that the real Mookie Betts has finally arrived?
I'm fully buying it, taking it to the bank, laughing with my money on the way out. Mookie is all the way back. He looks like he's Mookie Betts again. He looks like he's having fun playing the game. He's still playing a great shortstop. The strikeout rate is absurdly low. He's walking a little bit too. He's hitting line drives. Like everything is working right now. Mookie is all the way back, and I'm thrilled about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I will say it till I'm blue in the face on this show. The people who have been watching our show for a long time, I kind of want to apologize for saying this again, and I kind of don't. Folks, if you just don't give up on good players who have had a bad 1, 2, 3, 4 months, if you just decide I'm not going to give up on them, you will be right 80% of the time. You might be wrong 20%, but if you didn't give up on Max Muncy, guess what? He figured it out. If you didn't give up on Mookie Betts, guess what? He figured it out. Like, more often than not, these guys are good for a reason, and they will figure it out. Why people are so quick to dump on Mookie Betts, who, by the way, was their best hitter for the entire postseason last year, is beyond me. Those people telling themselves. And no, he didn't move to right field, in case all the people that thought that was the reason he couldn't hit. Unbelievable for Mookie Betts. And yours truly is just hoping that second half OPS can stay with an 8 at the front, because holy crap, would that have been a good one for me. I was starting to count that one as a loss, Bruce. I'm going to be honest. I could have just said like 700 or 750. I went dumb and said 800, and I might look smart.
Hey, I think that when we talked about that, when you made the prediction, I was on board, but probably more in that 750 range. You went aggressive, and it's looking like it's working.
Hey, sometimes you gotta swing for the fences, you know? Second one, a little bit more complicated because we're dealing with a smaller sample size. Are you buying or selling the hot streak that Teoscar Hernandez is in the midst of? His last 2 games, 4 for 9 with 3 home runs. He was in a 1 for 20 stretch, the 4 or 5 games, before that. Are you buying or selling that the last 2 games are a good representation of where Teoscar Hernandez is headed?
I really, really want to buy here, but there's been a lot about Teoscar Hernandez's season this year that has had me very concerned, and it has played right into the trend line that I was afraid that he would be going on, not quite this soon, but maybe in like year 3 of the contract. He's the kind of player that usually in the past the Dodgers have not gone aggressively after because it's a lot of strikeouts, it's not a lot of walks, and that's the kind of archetype that once that regression starts to set in, it can be a very quick downhill slide. And we've seen that happen all season for Teoscar. It's been pretty ugly. So he's the kind of guy that now that he hopefully will have some confidence back and play with some mojo that he normally has, I think that'll help. But I am not quite ready to believe that he's going to be last year's Teoscar Hernandez moving forward.
I'm just not convinced the approach has actually changed. And I referenced this on our last show. I think it was his first home run in the 2 home run game when Orel Hershiser basically made a point of saying that the Rockies pitcher had made a mistake 3 times in a row, and it was the 3rd one that Teoscar hit out for a home run. And yes, it's a home run, but I think Orel was sort of quietly pointing out that he missed 2 really, really bad pitches right before he got the third one. So maybe that's what turns it around. Maybe it's just a confidence thing. I just remain unconvinced. If hold was an option, I would be holding on Teoscar Hernandez. If I was forced to lean one way or the other, I'm still selling because I want to see an improved approach. I want to see him feeling like he's not guessing and he's not just predetermining swing or not swing, even if the contact has been better of late. So we'll see, but hold/sell is where I would land on this one. Next one is an interesting one and a new one, a topic I did not think I'd still be talking about in 2025, Bruce, and that is Roki Sasaki. Are you buying or selling Roki Sasaki, the postseason weapon? 4 2/3 the other day, 8 strikeouts, the fastball up, not a typo here, 4 miles an hour in one start over the start prior, 6 pitches over 100, 16 whiffs on 35 swings, including a few on the fastball. His 30-day window of rehab assignment is basically over before he will make his next appearance. So he is flying to Los Angeles or is in Los Angeles to talk to the Dodgers about what their plans are for him now. But are you buying or selling that this last start unlocked something, found something, and this is a guy we might see in the postseason?
Again, I'm not ready to buy yet. I was extremely pleasantly surprised and elated seeing the data come back from that last rehab start of his, because I don't know where it came from. That might be a reason to be encouraged, because that's you don't get 4 miles an hour on your fastball and 7 miles an hour on your slider and 4 on the splitter just on a whim. That's not adrenaline doing that. So he must have found some kind of fix. The thing that makes me not ready to say that he's going to be a weapon out of the bullpen or in the rotation, wherever it is in the postseason, is the shapes were still the same. And if he gets back to the major leagues and instead of being a 4 mile an hour gain, it goes back down to 2, then that fastball all of a sudden is going to be better than it was at the start of the season. But it's not going to be, give him the ball in the 9th inning and feel great about it kind of territory. I am very happy to see that he seemingly found something. Because this seemed like it was a complete wash of a year, and now there's some sort of optimism. But I also feel kind of bad for Roki that the first sign of anything positive, now all of a sudden it seems that there's some expectations starting to brew within the fan base that he's going to be able to, be a savior for this team or something like that. I would pump the brakes a little bit, be happy with the progress he seems to have made. If he can translate it to the big leagues, then I'll be all over it. But I want to see what he does back in the major leagues before I'm ready to pencil him into the playoff roster.
Yeah, it's a sell for me for sure on the postseason roster. And honestly, it's a sell for me that we see him in Los Angeles this year. I see people saying, oh, they're going to give him a start. And I'm just like, find me the roster spot. Like, is Emmett Sheehan getting sent down in order to make room for that start? This doesn't seem like a team that is going to have just games to mess with at the end of the season where it's like, hey, we already clinched the division with 5 games to go. And so who's he starting for? They already had to send Kasperius down. So the next guy is like, are you going to send Enriquez or Dreyer or, one of those guys down, Robleski down just to get Roki Sasaki up to the roster? So I'm selling all of it. I'm hopeful. Like you said, 4 miles an hour, 7 miles an hour. That's not nothing, but I think it's a little bit too little, too late for me in 2025. For Roki Sasaki. So 2 more buy or sells. The next one is an optimistic one. Are you buying that Emmett Sheehan has officially arrived? His last 3 starts, 18 2/3, 14 base runners allowed, 3 earned runs, 25 strikeouts, and an absolutely absurd 41% whiff rate over 3 starts, averaging 6+ innings across those. Are you buying that he has arrived?
I'm absolutely buying it, because I've been all over Emmett Sheehan for a long time now that this is the guy. I mean, he's not going to be a 42% whiff rate forever, but this is the kind of impact that he can have. His final season, or his final month of his rookie season before he got TJ last year, was fantastic. That September, I remember there was a startup in Seattle that he looked like an absolute ace. It's not like this is out of nowhere. And I feel like even for the majority of this season where he hasn't been completely shut down, he hasn't been bad either by any stretch. He's been competitive. And then now you see a step up from competitive. And this is the guy that I think he is. I think Emmett Sheehan is an impact pitcher, whether he winds up getting bumped to the bullpen just because of how many great starters there are, or he remains starting games down these final 16 games. I don't care. Emmett Sheehan's a really good pitcher, and I feel really good about handing him the ball.
And I'm with you entirely because, again, I look for the numbers that preach sustainability, and he is checking every single one of those boxes. This isn't low quality of contact or some batted ball luck that he's getting. He is missing bats. I keep saying it, and I apologize. He basically has Mason Miller swing and miss whiff rates over his last 3 starts while averaging more than 6 innings per start. Like, that's insane what he has been able to do. And to your point, it's not sustainable at that number. However, there's pedigree. There's reason to believe that this is real, and now he's showing it. And I said this the other day, and I'll repeat it on here because the first time was on social media. Can we just remind ourselves that when we get pissed off at the trade deadline that the Dodgers didn't trade more prospects for impact arms or whatever, that sometimes the arms that they decide to keep are the Emmett Sheehan's of the world. So I know it's not a like for like. It's not a guarantee that every guy they decide to keep becomes Emmett Sheehan. But while we are frustrated, and potentially rightfully so, they didn't go get Duran or they didn't go get Laureano, can we just remember that 2 or 3 years from now, there might be a hitting or pitching prospect that is having a Emmett Sheehan type arrival that is in the organization and on the roster because they did not sell him away at the 2025 deadline. That's all I'm saying.
I love it. And Emmett Sheehan has a really bright future, not only just, in his ability on the mound, but I think he's a guy that as some of these pitchers in the rotation start to get a little older or have to have their innings managed, it's going to be Emmett Sheehan that's the next guy right there to pitch really, really well. And I just am really happy to see him getting the success right before the end of the year, because I think he has to be in the postseason bullpen, assuming he's bumped out from the rotation. And I think he can really be good in that role.
Yeah. And by the way, I see some people in the comments mentioning, like, just thinking about the rotation moving forward. Obviously, Snell under contract, Glasnow under contract, Yamamoto under contract, Ohtani under contract, Sheehan, team control, River Ryan, Gavin Stone, Jackson Ferris. Like, there's dudes everywhere in the Dodgers starting pitching. And I mean, Kershaw not under contract, but look, lifetime contract if you want it, buddy, as far as I'm concerned. Last one, we've kind of touched on it. Are you buying or selling Ben over Dalton Rushing for the Dodgers?
Yeah,
let's just talk postseason roster. Like, from here to the end of the season, Rushing expected to go on a rehab assignment. Assuming he is back healthy, are you buying that Ben, who, by the way, is 4 for 16, I mentioned, caught the Yamamoto game, caught the Glasnow game, caught the Snell game, 3 of the better pitching performances we've seen in like a 4-day stretch. Are you buying that he has supplanted Dalton Rushing as the number 2 catcher?
No, not at all. I think Dalton Rushing's been with this team for a long time now. I don't think that he has been bad in terms of his game management. And Ben Rortvedt's been very impressive with his catching over this last week or so that he's been in there. So all credit to him. But Dalton Rushing's the guy who has established himself as the backup catcher. And especially as we're starting to get worried about whether Will Smith's going to play every game in the postseason, how effective he's going to be, all those things, Dalton Rushing has the offensive upside that is absolutely more valuable in that role.
The question I think a lot of people have is Dalton Rushing the last week, which is recency bias for sure. He looked really bad defensively. I mean, it was like 5 wild pitches / pass balls. There have been questions as he's come up through the system, Bruce, about defensively. We know the arm is unbelievable. He grades out well as a framer too, I believe. But how concerned are you at his ability to block the ball?
Yeah, it was weird to see it go off the rails as abruptly as it did. And that is to say, I'm not overly concerned with it because I don't think that that's something that is going to continue. He hasn't been a great blocker throughout this season. As you said, blocking's been something that's been having to get worked on as he got brought up through the system. But it's not like this whole year has felt like that week-long stretch where he can't block anything and there's pass balls, and it just went off the rails for some reason. So what I'm hoping is that this quick little IL stint and a little rehab assignment in AAA can get him back in his rhythm behind the plate, and then it won't be something we have to think about again.
It's worth pointing out, I mentioned that Ben cannot be optioned. The reason he can't be optioned is because every team that's had him for the last 4 years has just sent him down to the minor leagues. And then he was waived and he cleared waivers. And that's why he wasn't on the 40-man roster when he got traded to the Dodgers. And so I know, like, he's 4 for 16 with a walk. That means he's got a 250 batting average. It means he's got an on-base percentage a tick over 300 and a 250 slugging percentage. That's an OPS under 600. And there is nothing we have seen from him this year or ever to believe that the offense is better than that. And so, yes, defensively, game calling, all of that has been impressive. But with rushing, we're talking about a guy that continues to be ranked in the top 50 prospects in the league. And his potential is not like a 220 hitter. His potential is like a high 200s hitter with power and an on-base percentage in the upper 300s. That's what he has sort of in front of him. And the idea that we're talking about Ben over rushing, I understand we're in the moment here, but if you take a deep breath and step back, it's kind of crazy.
And I'll say too, like Ben Rortvedt deserves credit for his game calling and these recent starting pitching performances when he's been in the squad, but so do the starting pitchers. It's not like Ben Rortvedt's been the guy on the mound throwing those pitches. It's been fantastic performances from Blake Snell, from Tyler Glasnow, from Yoshinobu Yamamoto, from all these guys that they're pitching the lights out. So it's not like that Rortvedt's been the sole contributor for those games. And I think that Dalton Rushing and Will Smith could also be in the squad. If those guys are going to be pitching as well as they have over this last week, then who your catcher is really doesn't change a lot. Game calling matters, but it's not like that Blake Snell is going to be a terrible pitcher versus a fantastic pitcher, depending on game of inches with game calling.
Yeah, and by the way, like Yamamoto, for example, started calling his own pitches that game. So, like, there was some teamwork they've acknowledged, but it was the first time all year that Yamamoto was wearing the pitch comm himself, for what it's worth. So, all right, one more segment. We like to do Prospect Corner when Bruce is with us. If you don't know Bruce, one of the best in the game when it comes to the Dodgers farm system and the guys coming up. And so rather than picking one specific prospect, we're going to talk some news. 8 Dodgers were named to an Arizona Fall League roster. That would be the Glendale Desert Dogs, for those who are curious. I'm about to read you 8 names. I would say there's probably 3.5 you've heard of and 4.5 that maybe you haven't. Bruce has heard of all of them. But these are the 8 guys named to the roster. It starts up top with Josue DePaula, by far the biggest name on this group. Kendall George, Hyunsuk Jung, Peyton Martin, Logan Wagner, Justin Chambers, Jacob Wright, and Alex Makarowicz, I believe is the pronunciation there. So those 8 guys are named to the Arizona Fall League. Maybe give us a little bit of info on what the Arizona Fall League is, Bruce, and why maybe people should care.
Yeah, so the Arizona Fall League's like about a month of baseball that gets played in Arizona in the fall. It's a chance for these guys to get some extra run and extra development after the season that is better than, sitting at home and training in the off season. So oftentimes it's used for guys that maybe were hurt throughout the year and didn't have a full season of development. They get to catch up, or somebody that maybe, knocking on the door of moving up the minor leagues pretty fast and they want to take advantage of a hot streak or anything like that. There's many reasons to send guys down there. It's an interesting facet because, like you said, the Glendale Desert Dogs are not a Dodgers team. It's a combination of, I think it's the Dodgers, the Reds, the Cardinals, White Sox. It's like 5 or 6 different teams that all send, 6 to 8 prospects, and it creates this roster that plays against, I think, 5 other teams in the Fall League. So it's an interesting design of baseball. It's very unique. But yeah, the Dodgers sent a pretty talented crop this year.
Obviously, DePaula, George has a million stolen bases for those that aren't following that one. Hyunsuk Jung is a kid they signed out of Korea, I believe, a couple of years ago, and he's a young kid. Martin, Wagner, Chambers, Wright, Makarowicz. Any of these guys to keep an eye on? This Peyton Martin, I recognize, feels like maybe he was a high draft pick or something. The rest of these guys, I don't recognize names, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I'll go through quick because I think they're all interesting prospects. Martin had a great 2023. He was actually a very late round pick and kind of burst onto the scene. He's dealt with some injury stuff, hasn't quite been at that same level, but he's been solid this year. I would want to see what changes they make. The Fall League is a good chance for pitch arsenal tweaks, and they've got all the spring training facilities and all that stuff. So usually you'll see pitchers go through some big changes down there. Obviously, you said Hyunsuk Jang, as high of a ceiling as really any of the pitching prospects in the system. Big strikeout stuff, can't command it, so try and make some development there. Jacob Wright has had a couple stints on the injured list this year for Rancho Cucamonga, was a 4th rounder out of Cal Poly. Lefty, big slider. The fastball has gained a couple of ticks, and he's got an interesting future if he can stay healthy. Makarowicz is relief only. He's one of those guys, has absolutely no idea where the ball is going. Over 10 walks per 9 this season, but it's like 15 strikeouts per 9 too. So it's a hilarious profile with great stuff, a couple of double plus pitches, and you just hope that he can rein it in a little bit.
The new Eric Swan, potentially.
Yeah, so potentially even more extreme than that. It's like a 20% walk rate, like hilarious stuff to even view on Fangraphs. And then Justin Chambers was the guy that they got for Brian Hudson in the trade from the Brewers a couple of off seasons ago. Was the top prep prospect in Arizona, got taken in the 20th round by the Brewers because he was rehabbing TJ. Since he's gotten healthy, has had a solid year between the complex league and single A this year. Another southpaw. It's a sinker slider combo that's intriguing. So he's a very young guy to be sent to the fall league. I would estimate the fall league is somewhere in between high A and double A in terms of level of the competition. Once in a while, you'll see a big leaguer there. But Chambers is young and getting to play up against some big competition for some extra dev.
I can't believe they got a guy for Brian Hudson. That's fantastic. I mean, I know Brian Hudson actually went on to be like a good relief pitcher, but given what he was for the Dodgers, it's hilarious that they got something for him. So, all right, let's get to some questions, folks. All caps questions. Throw that in the chat. We've got about 15 minutes or so left if we've got the questions to justify it. I see we've got a few populated. So some prospect questions for you, Bruce. TQT starts us off. Elijah Hainline's stat line looks great, and he plays a legit shortstop. Is he an actual prospect, potential starter, or backup?
I think Hainline projects as a utility kind of infielder. I don't see him becoming a starter sort of prospect in the infield, but I kind of think of him, and there's been many guys that have come through the system and been that sort of like potential fifth infielder on the bench kind of thing. And Hainline's had a great year. So I am going to be interested watching him next year once he gets to double A. If the production continues there, then maybe you talk about the potential to be a more legit prospect than he is right now.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Jay Teaser wants to know, what do you think of Kendall George's potential? Is his best outcome Juan Pierre, or is he different? Again, if you've missed Kendall George, he has over 100 stolen bases this season down in the minors for the Dodgers.
Yep, 100 stolen bases in high A. He's an absolute havoc creator. So I think Juan Pierre, you can't expect more than that because he's a guy that doesn't have a huge offensive upside. He doesn't hit for power like almost at all. But the good thing is he controls the zone really well. So he's not the kind of speed first guy that you imagine that goes up and swings at everything. He actually works a very, very decent amount of walks. He walked more than he struck out this year in high A. Such a fun player to watch because he's a throwback. He prioritizes getting the ball in play. He can beat out any ground ball. So it's about slapping the ball in play and seeing what happens. He's even a good bunter too. Like, I am rooting for Kendall George, not only just because he seems like a good guy, but also because he would be fun to watch in the big leagues. He's just a crazy player to watch. So if he can keep developing defensively, I think he turns into a good center fielder, and you hope that he just gets to the big leagues and can be a guy that bats ninth and makes enough contact to get on the bases and steal a ton of bags.
Yeah. Aaron wants to know, how have Josue DePaula and Zaire Hope looked since getting bumped up to double A?
Yeah, so they just got there. So there isn't much in terms of returns, but it's impressive for DePaula, especially. They're both the same age, so it's impressive for both of them to be up there. It took a little longer than I thought it would this year. I was kind of looking at All-Star break and thinking they might get the bump then, but the Dodgers were careful, as is their usual MO. So it's nice to see that they'll get a slight taste of double A here at the end of the season. And then next year, I would expect both those guys spend the vast majority, if not all, of 2026 in double A.
TQT, going back to the Kendall George, he said, is he more D Gordon, Juan Pierre, or Billy Hamilton?
Oh man. I don't see a lot of D Gordon because I think D had a pretty solid offensive impact. Like, he was a good contact hitter, batting champion. So I don't think the Kendall George is a batting champion, but I think he's a little bit more offensive potential than Billy Hamilton, but he also has the certain possibility to be a Billy Hamilton that you just have as a pinch runner.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Eden wants to know, hold on one second. Okay. Yeah. Eden wants to know, do we think that very minimal playing time would allow Smith to play in all of the postseason games? Basically, should the Dodgers just rest Will Smith for the next 2.5 weeks so that once they get to the postseason, in theory, he has the best chance possible of playing?
You have to be very careful about how you manage this, because if you let's say in a theoretical world, if you just bench him or put him on the IL for 2.5 weeks, you're also messing up his rhythm heading into the postseason. So I think that they are going to have to be very careful about it, and he's not going to play as much as he has been playing before he went on the IL or before he spent a weekend on the bench. They just have to not throw him off his rhythm, but be as careful as they can to have him as fresh as he can. The only person who knows how this is going to work is Dave Roberts and Will Smith, and they'll manage it how they see fit.
Yeah, well, and plus they have a Hall of Fame catcher sitting behind him in Ben. So the good news is there's no reason. I'm just kidding, everybody. Alm wants to know, Jeff, are you okay with Rushing getting chances despite a bad season, but not Roki when he has shown development with 100+ miles an hour? Why? Because my alternative to Dalton Rushing is Ben, and my alternative to Roki Sasaki is Emmett Sheehan. And I like one of those alternatives a lot better than I like the other. If the Dodgers were talking bullpen games in the postseason, we'd have a different conversation about Roki Sasaki. He's like ninth best starting pitcher they have right now. So I would take Justin Robleski starting a game over Roki Sasaki right now. So to put things in perspective, anything you'd add?
If it was last year, Roki Sasaki would be getting ushered back to LA as fast as he could get there, but this is different.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, 2 more fun questions. Well, Iris has a question for you. Bruce, do you know what a pager is?
I sort of. It's like a collar thing.
Yep, nailed it. Yeah. Okay. Do you know what 143 means?
No.
Okay. So a pager was, and this is pre-me. I never had a pager, for the record. But basically, before cell phones, you would carry a pager around, and somebody could send a message to your pager that was basically, here's my phone number, call me. And then you would have to go to a payphone and you would call the person. 143 was slang for I love you, because 1 is the number of letters in I, 4 is the number of letters in love, and 3 is the number of letters in you. So there you go, updating you. Iris also wants to know, if you catch a home run ball, are you keeping it or giving it away?
I think if there's a kid right near me, I would probably give it to the kid, but I also respect anybody. If you catch a home run ball in the big leagues, the thing I think is the craziest, I will never, ever throw it back. I think you're a psychopath if you catch a big league home run ball and you don't at least keep it or give it to a kid. Those are the only 2 valid options.
Yeah, having stood in the bleachers, like, I just had a new level of appreciation for how hard those balls are coming in. Like, you think, oh, it's been flying for a long time. Like, I'm terrified. I'm like, I don't want my face within 4 feet of where that ball is going to land, first of all. So you're saying you're not going Phillies psycho fan lady pulling the ball out of the dads. What if that whole thing was a ploy, though, Bruce? Because then the kid and the dad ended up getting like 100x more than before. Maybe that's the setup, is there's 2 people. One of them gets the ball, hands it to an adorable kid, and the other person comes over, looks like a total jerk, and then the little kid ends up with like an Ohtani signed bat or something, you know?
If that's the scheme, it's worked pretty well. We've seen some interesting shenanigans in this. Have you ever seen the clip of, it was many years ago now, but there was a kid who caught a foul ball, like a teenager, turned around to a girl behind him. He had a ball in his glove, flipped the 2, handed her the non-game ball, and he got the best of both worlds.
It's amazing. It's fantastic. Yeah. Hepatitis says Jeff doesn't want to show up to a DodgerHeads show with a black eye because of a Shohei Ohtani 120 mile an hour home run. I'm with you on that for sure. And I mean, although if you took 120 mile an hour fastball from Ohtani to the face, I mean, I'd have some pretty sick stuff up on the wall, is all I'm saying, right? Like, just milk that bad boy. So
it also might be hospital bills on your wall. I think that would be more than a black eye.
Yeah, it's that. Ohtani will cover it. Jose wants to know, if you got the opportunity to throw the first pitch at a game, who do you want catching? Conforto for Jeff was his answer. Mine would obviously be Kershaw. That would be my first choice.
Yeah, I think I would love to have a Shohei Ohtani catch, because he's the greatest player to ever pick up a bat or throw a ball, and I think that would be the standout.
Yeah, it's cool. Dodger Rick, pick 2 for the postseason: Enriquez, Kasperius, Hurt, Stewart, Robleski, and Sasaki. I'm guessing is the last one here. Let's see, Bruce, you going to stick with your bold prediction here?
Yeah, if choosing 2, assuming Brock Stewart gets back.
Assuming health, he's expected to go on a rehab assignment soon, so he is projecting to be back in time.
It would be Henriquez and Stewart for me.
Okay. No Kyle Hurt?
Not yet.
Okay. Stewart for sure. Robleski is probably the guy I like the best, but he is hurt by the fact that he throws left-handed, which on this team is weirdly like a bad thing because they have a million other left-handers. I'm the high man on Kasperius. I know they sent him down. Like, I keep staring at it. I'll go with Enriquez and agree with you here, but I don't think Kasperius and Robleski are easy omissions on this one. So, yeah. Okay, let's see. Last one here. Aaron wants to know, do you feel better about the Dodgers' chances in the postseason than at this time last year? We talked about better on paper. Even with the worst record, this team is in much better shape. So do you agree, like going into the postseason, are you going to like this team more than you liked last year's?
I think so. It's an interesting thing to think about because it's nearly impossible to put yourself back in that mindset knowing the team won the World Series last year. But when I do my best to do that, I know heading into October last year, it felt like that the team had virtually no chance because you had no idea who was going to start any of the games, let alone the important ones. So, I think this team should be in a good spot. I've already said in this show, though, that there's something about this Dodger team over the last few months that isn't quantifiable by what the roster looks like. It's been a lot of losses that shouldn't be losses, and I don't know how that's going to get solved or if it will. So I'm dubious, but I still think this roster is in such a good place that it would be hard not to choose 2025's team.
What if you knew this group had to go through the wild card round?
Oh man, that's tough because I think the wild card round is an absolute curse.
Me too.
I think best of 3 baseball is not baseball, and I hate the fact that you can win your division and have to play that. So if you throw that into the mix, then I think it's a toss-up just because of how important avoiding that wild card series is.
I'm with you. We liked the offense a lot more a year ago than we do today. We probably liked the bullpen a year ago more than we do today. But the gap in starting pitching is like borderline unquantifiable. I mean, really, like there was 2 spots in the rotation basically that nobody liked. It was Flaherty you liked, it was Yamamoto you liked, Buehler and whoever else they were throwing out there in a bullpen game was never something that gave you the warm fuzzies. And so it's hard for me to believe that I'm going to feel better this year. But on paper, with the starting pitching and the hitting and all of it, this team's better. But again, I'm with you. You throw the wild card in and I'm like, just give me I'll take my chances with the 2024 group and not having to go through a stupid 3-game series. So that's where I'm at as well. That's going to do it for us tonight, folks. We appreciate you all hopping in on a non-game day Thursday night with us. That is Bruce. I am Jeff. I will be out on Sunday and again on Tuesday. I've got a wedding and a trip, but I will be back next Thursday with my guy Bruce over there doing post-game show. I believe that's the Giants. We've got a 7-10 game, so it'll be a late one. But Matt and Blake, I believe, are hosting Sunday night. I'm not sure on Tuesday, but there will be a show. So Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, as always, if you're new, please subscribe, ring the notification bell here. Postseason run incoming, we hope. Dodgers won 4 in a row, 3-game lead in the division as well as, as well as the tiebreaker. So check out DodgerBlue.com, DodgerBlue1958 on social media. Enjoy the rest of your night, everyone. As always, go Dodgers, and don't forget, still champs.